Welcome to the Fight Like a Mother podcast. I am Cheryl Cardall, your host. You have landed in a wonderful community where we give non-judgmental support for parents raising kids with mental health and other neurodiverse challenges. My main goal is to provide resources and especially a soft place to land. Go find me on Instagram and join our awesome community of parents under my name, Cheryl Cardall. Now on with the episode. Welcome back to the Fight Like a Mother podcast. I have an awesome guest today that I'm so excited to share with you. It is my good friend and co-organizer of our events. It's Ember Pilati. So thank you so much for being here, Ember. It's about time we collaborate on the podcast, right?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be here. So thanks, Cheryl.
Ember also is a mental health mama and a coach for families dealing with mental health challenges. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Ember Pilati, and I am the mom of 5 kiddos. I've been married for 25 years. I know I love lots of people in my life that struggle with mental health. And I have struggled with mental health in certain periods of my life as well. So we are intimately acquainted with the mental health world at our house, which has led me to be a life and relationship coach. I'm also the host of the Emerge Empowered podcast. And my goal is to help people flourish in their family life, even when they're dealing with mental health challenges. So as a coach, I help build emotional and mental resilience and help them practice self-compassion and self-care, and just so that they can flourish in every aspect of their life. So that's what I do.
Well, and we all need that, right? I mean, it can be so um, challenging when you are caring for somebody who struggles in their mental health.
Mhm.
And so I just love what you share and what you teach. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit today. Tell us, like, how do you help? Mostly you work with women, right?
Yes.
How do you help women flourish in these challenging times? Like, let's just dive in.
Yeah, so a lot of the clients that I will work with at the very first, they'll just simply ask me this question, like, is that even possible?
Right. I
Right?
know I felt that. Yes.
Right. And it does. It seems heavy and hopeless in so many ways.
Hmm.
And and no one trains us how to do that.
Yeah,
Right?
totally true.
We joke that there's no guidebook for parenting, but there's really no guidebook for um, when someone in your
Yeah.
family is struggling with mental health. And so there's a lot of I should be able to do this, or what do I even do? So the first question is usually like, is flourishing in my family relationships even possible? And I get that because I have totally been there before when it seems like an absolute impossibility. And I can assure you that it is possible. And you do have to be willing to put in the work and the time to learn what you need to learn and heal what you need to heal, and that is possible to flourish in those family relationships, even when you or someone you love is struggling with mental health issues.
So I have a question for you because I've been in a space before, and I know lots of my listeners and community members have been in a space before. And sometimes it's a struggle to get out of bed. Sometimes it feels completely overwhelming to think of doing one more thing. And we hear all the talk about self-care and, do these things, or self-care is go get a massage or a bubble bath or all of the things. And first of all, a lot of people don't have the money to put into what the world is telling us is self-care,
Right.
or the time. And like, I don't have time or energy to put one more thing on my to-do list. So tell us how your framework is different.
Yeah, I think we're fed a lot of misinformation about self-care.
I totally agree.
I absolutely know, especially as women,
Hmm.
where it's all about take a bubble bath or have a spa treatment or something like that.
Yeah.
And while I don't want to discount those things, like absolutely do those things if they're helpful. What I found is that I found myself in a space where that was not even close to enough, right? And
Yes.
it's not true self-care that I'm not just going to be replenished by taking a bubble bath. Now, I enjoy a good bubble bath. Don't
Yeah.
get me,
Right.
but my mind, my body, my soul, that doesn't nourish all three of those.
Hmm.
And I'm a multidimensional person dealing with a lot. Usually, when there's mental health struggles, there is just an incredible load that we bear. And
Yes.
so, nourishing our mind, body, and soul is so important. I like to think of it as like a flourishing fountain,
Mm.
right? That when you have the top, like three tiers of a fountain, the top layer is your mind, then your body, then your soul, and only then can you give out.
Mm.
That those things are overflowing. Now, that may seem impossible, but the thing, back to your question, that really differentiates what I do versus what other people do is that small and simple matters. And it's in the small and simple moments that you can actually replenish your mind, your body, your soul. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of money, but knowing what actually nourishes you and restores you is key.
Yeah. So you're not talking fluffy self-care here.
No.
You're talking like deep soul care.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and I love that because small and simple seem like it's the only thing that we can handle
Mhm.
sometimes. And so
Yes.
I love that.
And good news, because that's what really actually
Hmm.
works.
Right.
That's what actually works. So I wanted to share a quote by Christy Ling because I think it's so powerful. She says, caring for your body, mind, and spirit is your greatest and grandest responsibility.
Mm,
It's
that's so
about
great.
listening to the needs of your soul and then honoring them. And I think a lot of us have been kind of just society has trained us to push those things aside, right? Not or not listen to what our soul really needs, but listening to what we need and honoring those needs. And that is super, super powerful. So yeah, it's this process of discovering what actually nourishes you, mind, body, and soul. What I usually have clients start with is choosing
Hmm.
one thing that will have the biggest impact for them. And the impact that I'm talking about is like the ripple effect.
Mm,
Okay.
right. Right.
One small and simple thing that they can do that would have the biggest impact for them. For
Can you
most,
share some examples of things people have chosen?
yeah. Number one thing that helps my clients the most is sleep.
Mm,
Getting even just 15 to 30 minutes more sleep each day matters, especially to women. And none of us are getting the sleep that's recommended or that is needed for our bodies.
hmm.
8 to 9 hours, that's what we need. 8 to 9 hours, that's not time in your bed. That's of sleep.
Right.
So, and I know that that's an impossibility for most of us, right? I totally recognize that. But even just going to bed 15 to 30 minutes earlier what would that mean for you? For a lot of us, it would mean that we would have more energy, that we'd actually be able to follow through on some of the things that we're working on. Just
Uh-huh.
it's that ripple effect. What would more sleep be? What would that mean for you? For some people, it's more movement of their bodies. That's even just in a small, simple way,
Hmm.
even just 15 minutes of walking a day can really have a big impact, especially when you time it right, like in the afternoon, to give you a boost of energy to go through the the afternoon and evening hours,
The
which can
witching hours,
yes, totally. I'm
because
so
we
glad
turn into
someone else.
witches.
Yeah, I'm so glad someone else calls it that too. So that's where I usually start is choose one small and simple thing that would have the biggest impact. and most people will kind of know what that would be, whether that's rest in the afternoon or giving themselves permission to, yeah, just sit down and read a book for 15
Uh-huh.
minutes that's a way that you can take care of your mind. So
Yeah.
that's what I
I wanted to say something about that small and simple, like the ripple effect. So when I'm dealing with depression, which I do fairly often in my life, I know that moving my body and getting outside is huge for my mental health. But sometimes, like getting your exercise clothes on, getting your shoes on feels like too much. And so I have told myself 5 minutes outside,
yeah.
5 minutes. And sometimes it's in my pajamas in my backyard and I walk around my backyard, but almost always it turns into 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And that makes such a huge difference. So I think like you can start super small. I mean, 5 minutes outside, that sounds like such a small thing, but it's like you said, it ripples and it builds on itself because you realize how much better you feel. And so it's like, oh, it is worth it to me to get my shoes on and walk up and down my street for 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Yes.
So I think that's really powerful for people who are struggling with feeling totally overwhelmed in their life.
Yes. And I love that you bring that up. Just get the shoes on, get outside, even if
Mhm.
it's 5 minutes, right?
Even
And
if
like,
you just sit in the sun and stretch, I mean, really, like start super small.
and if getting in different clothes is a barrier, don't do it.
Go in your pajamas.
Yes, go in your PJs or go in whatever you're wearing. And it has been proven that you get a boost of energy from moving your body. A lot of us are like, oh, that will expend energy that
No.
I don't have. And it actually boosts your energy. So even 5 minutes or even just a walk around the block for 10 minutes really does matter. The sunlight, the wind on your face, being outside, moving your body, it all matters. And small things matter. That's what the research is showing, is just super small things because you're more likely to do something that seems easy.
Hmm.
So just, yes, I will put on my shoes and walk outside. That's it, right?
Yeah.
5 minutes, that's it. And like you've found, most of the time it turns into something more. But it is essential to taking care of our body. I like to give it the big three: eat, move, and sleep.
Hmm.
Those are like the big three for our body. So even if it's a walk around the block or eating, is it just hydrating a little bit more, right? Maybe it's that you wake up and you drink 16 to 20 ounces of water first thing so that you've already kind of started the day off with more water.
Hmm.
That's a bonus. Is that going to
Yes.
help you? Absolutely. So don't focus on doing all the things
Hmm.
or doing great big things. Just start small and simple. It's interesting, Cheryl, because as children, we were taught that fable of the tortoise and the hare.
Hmm.
And yet, do we live that? The
Yeah.
small, slow steps win the race, not the big bursts of energy, not the overhaul. I'm going to do all the things on Monday morning. It doesn't win
And
the race.
then we burn out.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
So
yes,
true.
that's so
So
great.
true. Yeah, I love that you bring up this idea of taking care of our bodies. A few other ideas of really taking care of deep self-care for our body is I mentioned drinking more water. Another thing that is really helpful is giving up those sugary drinks.
Hmm.
And some of us are really attached to them, or even just cutting back matters. It matters. Eating a little bit more type nourishing foods during our lunch or dinner or breakfast, adding those things in just small quantities and simple ways, it matters. We talked about moving our body, exercise, things like that. Going to bed earlier, it so matters. And to help you do that, if you're someone who struggles going to bed earlier, if you'll turn off your digital devices an hour before bed, it will help your natural melatonin rates. So I call it a digital sunset,
Hmm.
that my screens go off an hour before bed, and that has been proven to help your own sleep cycles, um, and your own melatonin production help.
Yeah.
So, skincare, like one of the things that I do that I take care of myself is to do my skincare routine at night. And it used to be something I had to do or I should be doing. And now as I do it, I just think about like, I'm just taking care of me. This is how I take care of my skin. This is something I do just for me. And that is self-care to me. And then caring for our health needs. Sometimes this is one that we don't think about very often, but getting the tests that we need done or the screenings or doing our well checks, that's a way that you care for your body. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we don't think about that. We think of, oh, it's one more appointment. No, that's some ways that you take care of yourself.
You know, one thing I've learned is that when you start noticing or even saying to yourself, I'm taking care of myself, it does something to you. Like you said, with the skincare, like I'm taking care of myself right now. And it's like infusing that into yourself that I do care for myself. I love that.
Yeah. And it teaches you that that's important. We don't live in a society as society has socialized women to only take care of other people,
It's
right?
true. Yeah.
And so I mean that's a whole other podcast, but being able to focus on that I am worth taking care of myself and these things take care of me. It might seem a little bit like a foreign concept at first, but so needed and so important because if our fountain is not full, we simply cannot give back and we try to run on empty and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Exhaustion and overwhelm gets to be too much. So, yeah, I like this idea of mind, body, and soul. So we've talked about some ideas for the body. I want to give you some ideas for taking care of your mind. This is something that we don't always think about, but it is important to in small and simple ways take care of our mind. So that could be a meditation practice. Now, whenever I say that, someone envisions like 45 minutes every single day in a quiet spot. That's not what I'm talking about. Small and simple. Did you know that 3 minutes of meditation is has been shown statistically to be beneficial?
Wow.
3 minutes. Do you have 3 minutes? It's kind of like the 5 minute walk, right? Um, a sweet spot with meditation is 11 to 20 minutes, but 3 minutes is beneficial. Just start with three. Okay. Maybe it's reading a book, listening to a podcast. That I love listening to podcasts. Learning a new skill is an important part of cultivating your mind and taking care of it. Our minds like to learn new things. Doing something creative is a way that you can take care of your mind. And it doesn't have to be like pull out all the paints and start painting a picture. It can just be creating something small in your day, right? Or appreciating the creativity of others. Another thing that I teach my clients that I think is a great way to take care of your mind is practicing self-compassion. Just taking a moment to say, to have compassion for yourself and your situation, especially when someone you love is struggling with mental health issues. Just being able to say, this is really hard, and being able to be kind to yourself in that moment, regardless of if you behaved the way that you wanted to or not.
Right. Right.
But saying, you know, this is hard and that's okay. And, we're going to get through this. So even just taking a moment of having compassion for yourself helps really care for your mind too.
Yeah. I go to therapy a couple times a month, and one thing that my therapist really works on teaching me is self-compassion, and she does it by modeling compassion toward me. Like I told her I messed up on this situation with one of my kids, and she said, "Well, Cheryl, you're human. Of course you didn't handle that's a really hard situation. Like, of course." So often I'll just put my hand on my heart and go, I'm human. I make mistakes and it's okay. And I think even just that simple little practice of putting my hand on my heart and just saying, okay, I'm human. I make mistakes and it's okay.
And it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the putting your hand on your heart, that connection,
Uh-huh.
so powerful. And thinking about what you would say to a beloved child or a really dear friend, if they were in that situation, usually our self-talk is very different to
Yeah.
ourselves than
Or
what
even
we're.
picture little Cheryl.
Yes.
Have a
Yes.
picture, look at a picture of yourself as a little child. That
Mhm.
changes it too, because I would never talk to little Cheryl, sometimes how I talk to big Cheryl.
Yes. And that is such a powerful, powerful way that you can care for yourself.
Hmm.
And it just takes a few
It
moments.
does.
And that is part of that small and simple framework that it just matters. It totally matters. Now, on my website, I do have a free download that you can actually, with intention, write down how you're going to take care of your mind, body, and soul
Hmm.
each day. That's available if you want to download that. I do want to talk about caring for your soul.
Mm.
Because self-care is usually very superficial and on the outside or physical things. And the mind, we can be like, oh yeah, I need to take care of my mind. And this, I think, is one of the most overlooked parts of self-care is caring for our soul. That we are not just a body, we are not just a mind, but we are a soul too. So some ideas of taking care of your soul could be some type of spiritual practice that you have.
Mhm.
That could look different for everyone, uh, just depending on what your beliefs are. But some type of meditation is actually that's like it like helps all your mind,
Yeah.
body, and soul, right? So meditation is also a really great way to care for your soul, to be able to quiet your mind and actually tap in to your soul is wonderful. Doing something you enjoy. So as adults, we get really caught up into our responsibilities and what we should be doing or what we need to do for our families, and especially when we're caring for a loved one who is struggling, we forget to have fun.
Hmm.
And that joy and playfulness and fun is something that our soul craves.
Hmm.
And sometimes when we're in the thick of mental health issues in our house, in our family, that's the one thing that we just totally forget to do, right? So schedule it in. I know that seems so like, do I really have to schedule in fun? Yes, sometimes you do. But think about something you really enjoy doing, even if it's something in your house, right? I can pick up my ukulele and play, and it just brings me joy. I love it so much. Do I have a kiddo who struggles with mental health that it totally bugs? Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just to be real, it totally bugs them.
Hmm.
So I can schedule that in at a time that they're not here,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so doing something you enjoy is so important to really nourish your soul.
Can I
Social
tell you?
time.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
no, can I tell you a fun story?
Yes.
Years ago, I was at a motherhood retreat and they were talking about this, and people were like, well, I don't really know what I enjoy. And so they told this story of this young mom. She had an infant and a toddler and didn't have a lot of money and didn't have a lot of time. She'd always wanted to learn how to tap dance. And so she found a YouTube video that taught you how to tap dance. And she had a little tiny apartment. She bought a piece of plywood and she bought used tap shoes and she taught herself how to tap dance in her apartment with her two little kids. And she said it changed her life because she was doing something just for her and she was loving it and having so much fun. So, like, there's an idea, just like you may not want to learn how to tap dance, but do you want to learn how to sing? Like, I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. Like,
Mhm.
YouTube is fantastic for that kind of thing. So I love that story of the tap dancing mom. You can just imagine it, you know?
Yes, it makes me so happy. And like, what a great example to her kids about I can do something for myself and I can have fun.
Yes.
And this is what I'm doing. That reminds me, Cheryl, I'm so glad you brought up that story because as adults, sometimes we don't know what
Hmm.
we need to do. And so I always have my clients think about what did you enjoy doing as a child? Was it tap dancing? Or like I know a mom who loved to rollerblade as a child, but she felt like she had outgrown that because she
Mm.
was an adult. Guess who I see rollerblading, pushing a stroller now?
I love that. Yes.
Like, why not? Why
Yes.
not buy a pair of rollerblades or like some used ones, or maybe you have some and go out, push the stroller, right? Just think about the things that brought you joy as a child. Chances are your soul still enjoys doing those things.
Yes. Yeah. Like belly laugh. Find ways to belly laugh on a regular basis because that is such a good release,
Mhm,
but it's
mhm.
also feels so good to belly laugh.
Yes.
And we don't do it enough.
No, we don't do it enough. So learning something new. I know a few years ago I learned how to play the ukulele. I had never played a musical instrument before, and I love it. I love it so much. It brings me so much joy, and it brings other people joy. I bring it, it's so portable. I can bring
Uh-huh.
it all sorts of places. I take it backpacking. It like
Oh, that's
makes my
fun.
heart so happy.
Yeah.
But even just spending time outside or in nature, that is free.
Hmm.
That is free. Or doing sports or something athletic that you enjoy. Maybe it's pickleball, maybe it's something else, right? Going to events or just playing fun music and dancing around your house. That can change and lift your mood because it nourishes your soul.
Hmm.
And reaching out and fostering relationships. These are all things that help actually care for your soul that we don't always think about, right? But it matters.
It totally matters.
It
Yes.
matters, especially in small and simple ways. You might not always be able to go to a concert,
Right.
but can you? I remember one day I was canning peaches and I was like, I'm going to do a Celine Dion concert while I can peaches, you know? And I just played Celine Dion for hours and hours. I love Celine Dion's
Yeah.
voice. It's incredible. And just like belted out the
Yep.
songs with her, and it mattered. It filled my soul. And
Yeah.
it's something that we overlook a
My
lot.
daughter, I picked her up from work the other day and she's like, Whitney Houston again, because Whitney is my voice, that I love. And I was like, I went on a drive before I came to pick you up from work, and I just was singing at the top of my lungs. And she was like, Oh my gosh, Mom, that's embarrassing. I didn't care.
So maybe it should be do something that your kids would think was
That'll
embarrassing.
embarrass your
Yes,
kids.
then that would feed your soul. I love it
Oh, that's
so
funny.
much. Love it so much. The other part of the journaling sheet that I have for free is this aspect of gratitude.
Mm,
So, so often, when you or someone you love is struggling with mental health challenges, it's really difficult to find gratitude in that
mhm,
situation.
mhm.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough. Um, and the research is like, you can't argue with it.
Yeah,
Gratitude actually rewires your brain, and it does the most for you as far as happiness and well-being and life satisfaction. It increases those things by at least 25%.
mm,
Statistically, that is huge. Like you're not going to find anything else that actually has that big of a percentage. So it improves your energy and health, helps us be happier and more optimistic, more resilient, and able to deal with adversity better. Who needs that? Everyone,
everybody.
especially families who are dealing with mental health
Yes.
challenges, right? To
Hmm.
be able to deal with that better, more generous and forgiving, where it keeps you in the present moment and it improves your own mental health. It lowers your stress. It can lower anxiety and negative thoughts. It's huge. So
Hmm.
when we think of gratitude, sometimes we're like, oh, it's so small and superficial, or like, is it even worth doing? Um, I wanted to share a quote from the book Gratitude Works by Robert Emmons. This is incredible. So he has been researching gratitude, and this is what he says. Groundbreaking research has shown that when people regularly cultivate gratitude, they experience a multitude of psychological, physical, interpersonal, and spiritual benefits. Gratitude has one of the strongest links to mental health and satisfaction with life of any personality trait, more
Wow.
so than optimism, hope, or compassion. Grateful people experience higher levels of positive emotions such as joy, enthusiasm, love, happiness, and optimism. And gratitude as a discipline protects us from the destructive impulses of envy, resentment, greed, and bitterness.
Wow. That's really powerful.
And that is powerful. And sometimes we just like kind of brush it off as like, oh yeah, I should be grateful, right? Or what can I even be grateful for? And it's powerful. It's a powerful tool for our mind, body, and our soul.
Hmm.
So,
I
um,
think I've shared this with you before that Kim White, who was she's passed from cancer,
mhm,
but she was in the final stages of cancer and she shared a lot of her journey on social media. And she said at one point, the only thing I had left to be grateful for was breath.
yeah,
And so if you're having a hard time finding what you're grateful for, like our breath, our
yes,
heart beating, I mean, just within our body, what we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste. I mean, just within our own body, there are things to be grateful for. And I've always been amazed that sometimes, I mean, I have a dear friend who's in a wheelchair with a degenerative disease, and she's one of the most grateful people that I know.
mhm,
And because it is so important to find those things every day.
yes. Even when it seems hard or impossible, the breath.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for this moment and this breath, right? Or I'm grateful for this blanket that is
Yes.
keeping me warm. Like I have a favorite blanket. I can be grateful for that. And what it does, Cheryl, I think sometimes we think like, oh yeah, I've heard that gratitude is powerful. Let me teach you 3 layers of gratitude
Okay.
because this has changed my life and the lives of my clients. This is what the positive psychology movement is teaching us is that gratitude, just listing what you're grateful for, is powerful. It's awesome. And it can be even more powerful. So if you say what you're grateful for, and the second layer is why you're grateful for it, it helps you identify and connect with your core values.
Mm,
Usually we're grateful for things that we value
hmm.
and our character traits or our priorities, right? So um, it really helps us connect to those personal values and character traits of ours. So what you're grateful for, why you're grateful for it. It's like the next layer, right? That next
Hmm.
layer, you get to
Hmm.
dig a little bit deeper. And then this is the third piece that really, really makes gratitude impactful, and that is savoring.
Mm,
You sit in that moment and feel what gratitude feels like in your body.
mm,
Let it expand and grow as you focus on what you're grateful for and why you're grateful for it. This does not have to take 15 minutes. This can take just a few minutes.
right.
And just feel in your body, what does it feel like to be grateful? What does it feel like in my mind to be grateful and why I'm grateful for that? And it actually trains your mind and your body to feel that more often and to look for things that you're grateful for and to expand that emotion and let it linger and that you can really savor that moment.
Mm.
That's when gratitude becomes super powerful.
Wow. That's so fantastic. Just that added layer of savoring it. I've never
Mhm,
thought about that before, right?
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, most of us haven't, right? But if that's a feeling that we want to feel more often because of the powerful effects of it, and because we enjoy feeling that way, we have to kind of train ourselves to do
Hmm.
that, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
we've trained ourselves to feel lots of different things.
Hmm.
Why not train ourselves to feel the most powerful emotion, which is gratitude,
Hmm.
right? So, and I'm not saying that you're going to be feeling that at every moment of every day of your life, right? But intentionally doing it for a few moments a day, it's powerful. So powerful.
Definitely.
Yes. So the other aspect that you wanted me to cover today was there's two more things,
Hmm.
right? This idea of a way that we can take care of ourselves or a gift that we can give to ourselves is acceptance. So I just wanted to share a
That
quick,
word sometimes brings up like, oh, do I
yeah,
really have to?
right. And it also, I remember that that word used to mean for me like I'm resigned to this
Yes.
fate.
Yes.
I'm resigned to this really horrible situation.
Yeah. I'm just giving up. Like,
Giving up.
fine, I'll accept it.
Right. Right. So when we had a family member who was really, really struggling with some mental health issues, we were in the trenches. It was really, really hard. And I went to a women's conference and I happened to sit by this woman. We started talking and we had very similar situations. And I was a wreck. I was just like, my emotions flow freely. I was crying. I felt a whole lot of emotions, but
Hmm.
I felt like I was just out of control. And I noticed that she was really calm and at peace with her situation. And it was so similar to ours. I couldn't believe it. And I could not even imagine at that moment how to achieve that peace and calm. Like I couldn't even fathom it.
Hmm.
In fact, I asked myself, like, how can she even be okay with this? Like it was so impossible to me. And what she modeled for me in that moment genuinely was acceptance of that situation. I was still fighting against what was happening. Like this shouldn't be happening. This isn't fair. I don't know what to do. Like this was never what I signed up for. Right? And and she was able to just accept what was going on and was not resisting it, right? So really sometimes we think it's this oh giving up or I'm resigned to this, right? When true acceptance is really the ability to acknowledge the reality of this situation without all that resistance. Um, and so my one of my favorite quotes about acceptance is by Byron Katie. And she says, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Right? And that's what I found I was doing. I was
Yes.
arguing with the reality of my life that this circumstance should not be happening in my life or in my loved one's life, that this was never supposed to be in the cards for us. Right? And what was I doing? I was absolutely arguing with what was actually happening.
Right.
And I was losing 100% of the time. Kristen Neff, the author of Self-Compassion, has this beautiful formula, and it is suffering, right? I'm not talking about pain, I'm talking about suffering,
Hmm.
right? Equals pain times resistance.
Mm.
We're human. We are not going to escape pain. It's part of our journey, right? As human beings, all of us will experience pain, but only when we resist that, when we argue with reality and we add our resistance to it, it multiplies that pain into real suffering. And I hope that that's hopeful for people, right? I don't mean that to bring guilt or shame or anything like that, that you've heaped this on yourself. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have power. You have a say in how much suffering really happens. Now, are you going to experience pain? Yes. Have we all experienced pain? Yes. Is there a lot of pain associated with struggling with mental health? for you and your loved ones? Yes. And arguing with reality and saying things like, this shouldn't be happening, or if, oh, I had only done this better, or this isn't fair, or this is affecting our whole family and it shouldn't be. Why is this happening to us? Like all of that just multiplies the pain into more suffering. Now, this is where compassion comes into, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you
Yeah.
feel those things too.
Well, and I think also like those feelings likely are going to come, and you're not saying like push them away, push them away,
No.
push them away. It's like acknowledge them, feel them, but
Yes.
don't get stuck there. I think
Right.
that's so important because I think sometimes we're like, oh, well, I'm not supposed to feel this, so I'm going to push it
Mhm.
away. They don't go away.
Oh.
So I think it's important, like we do feel pain and it's okay to acknowledge that. And it's okay to feel like sometimes it's not fair,
Right.
you
Because
know,
it's,
right. But it's like, okay, this isn't fair and it is my reality.
yes.
And
Yes.
so we got to figure out how to move through it.
And that both can exist at once.
Yes, yes.
And giving yourself space to feel that way and acknowledging, yeah, that is our situation and it may not be fair. And yes, it is affecting our whole family. And now what?
Yes.
Because staying in that and only focusing on that is what is causing lots of suffering.
Hmm.
But pushing it away and saying it doesn't exist is also not going to be helpful at all
Right.
because it's
Because it's
going to
going to come
pop
out
up.
somehow.
Yes,
Yeah.
it will pop up. I like the if you've ever pushed like a beach ball down in the water, that's what like pushing those emotions down. Guess what? It's going to pop up sooner or later, and usually with more intensity
Yes.
and unexpectedly.
Well, and it may come up in an emotion that you didn't know, that you may not even connect with that pushing it away. Comes
Yeah.
up in intense anger or resentment or things. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think most of us weren't taught how to feel our feelings and how to work through them. And so sometimes it's a new skill that we have to learn. And I love that this whole thing about the pain and resistance, like we can learn this skill.
Yes, yes. And that it's so okay for you to have thoughts like that. Like, why is this happening to us? Right. But if that's all where your
Yes.
mental energy is spent, then is that serving me well? Is that serving my family well? Or if I just acknowledge the reality of this situation, then my mental and emotional energy can be put toward moving us forward
Mhm.
or into what do we need right now or solutions. I know more solutions present themselves when I acknowledge the reality of the situation and don't get caught up in this loop of like, if
Yes.
only I had done this better, or this shouldn't be happening, and I hate this. And you can feel all of that. And they're absolutely right. And if you're stuck there, just know that you can like exit
Hmm.
and be like, yes, this is our situation. And how can we move forward? Or what's one thing that we can do or that I can do to help this family member or help myself or something like that. I know that solutions present themselves when I don't have so much resistance to it.
It's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah. And there's stages, that you can go through, and there's resistance, there's resignation, like I'm resigned to this, acceptance. It's really hard to get to like the embracing stage, but it is possible.
Hmm.
Just knowing. And that woman that day, she probably will never remember our conversation. And I will remember it forever
Right.
because she showed me what was possible if I was able to let go. And did it take me time after that? Yes. And did I have to learn how? Yes. But she showed me powerfully what that could look like,
Mm.
even in a situation that was so similar to ours. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful gift. Yeah.
Yes. I love that you were able to see somebody in your similar situation that was steps ahead of you, and you're like, okay, I can get there.
Yes. It was powerful,
Yes.
powerful gift that she gave me that day. I don't even remember her name. Thank you to wherever you are. She was awesome. The other thing, Cheryl, that we had talked about covering today is thinking outside the box.
Uh-huh.
And with families who are struggling with mental health issues, um, this is this is another one of those things that seems impossible because so much of your mental energy is spent in doing all the things. Like you and I totally get this,
Yeah.
right? The mental load, the emotional load, it's great. And so thinking outside of the box just seems like one more thing, right? So what I like to do is think about just some steps to help you, right? And when someone's struggling with mental health, sometimes the typical solutions don't work. And you're like, I don't know what else to try because no one else talks about this, right? And it's a case by case.
Hey, can you pause for a second?
Mhm.
I could tell a big cough. And now it's the allergies.
Oh,
I have a cough. Oh, there it is. Uh, we're gonna have to edit all that out, obviously, but
okay.
I was just like, okay, I've got to do the big cough thing
Yes. Oh, shoot.
and blow my nose.
Hmm.
Um, okay. Hopefully that will help get us to the end.
Oh,
But it's like a different cough than it was. It's not like deep here. It's now like probably post-nasal drip dropping.
oh, yeah.
I
Which is a good sign, I think, right?
guess
Like that it's different, that it's not
6 weeks
so deep.
later.
Oh, frustrating.
Okay, let's try this with a cough drop. Okay, sorry, I cut you off. So you can start that principle over that you were teaching. Do you remember where you were at? I think you were at like,
The 4 steps.
yes. So
Yeah.
just start there.
Okay. Yep. So if you or someone you love is struggling with mental health, it's so important to think outside of the box, right? And come up with solutions that are not typical. But it's such a mental load to be like, how can I even think outside the box, right? So 4 steps that can help you get what your family needs. Number one, identify what you need. Because sometimes it's like, something's got to change and it's hard to even think about like, what are some solutions, but identify what you actually need. Okay. And then the next step is, how can I have this need met? Okay. So if this is what I need, how can this need be met? And it will seem impossible. It will be like, nope, we don't have the money to do that. Nope, we don't have the support to do that. Okay. Just keep moving on. We need this. How can we have this need met? And then brainstorm 20 ways to solve the problem. Now that seems like a lot, and you're going to be like, no, I'll just do like 5. Okay. But there is something magical about brainstorming 20 ways. It's because your brain will tell you all the reasons why this won't work and only give you like 2 or 3 solutions. If you just kind of push that aside and be like, even I'm just going to get to 20, something magical happens because you stop thinking about why it won't be able to happen and you just start thinking about this could be solved in this way. Another thing is to ask others for ideas. So what do you need? How can you have that need met? Brainstorm ideas and ask others for ideas. So I just want to share a story about a family that I know that they had someone in their family that was really, really struggling with mental health issues. They had a lot of kids, a lot of things, a lot of pressures, like they were getting no sleep. They were doing lots of appointments, right? Just there was so much happening in their family, and they just needed help. They needed help in several different ways. Um, taking care of the house, and they didn't have money to pay a housekeeper, right? They needed someone who could stay with their children because not all of them were easy to to be with, right?
Mhm.
And so a typical teenager was not going to work out. So they were like, okay, we need help. Their family was helping all that they could. Their budget didn't allow for hired help. Um, but they did have an extra bedroom and bathroom in their house. So they were able to find a local college student, and they traded a room to rent for a little bit of childcare each week and helping with household chores so that the family could meet the needs of appointments and mental and emotional needs for this family member. And it worked out beautifully for them. So even though as they brainstormed ideas, it was like, our budget doesn't allow for this, or our family support system, this is too much for them to even provide for us. And it was too much for the parents to even be able to keep up on all the things. But they were able to find something that they did have that they could trade in and have that need met. Now, is that something that always happens? No, but it's a beautiful idea, a beautiful example of thinking outside of the box. What do we need? Well, we need extra help and support in these specific ways. How can we have this need met? Well, we definitely don't have the funds in our budget to do this. What do we have? And how can we still have this need met? And it was just for a short amount of time, but it made all the difference for that family, and just so powerful. So if you are in a situation where you're like, we really need more support, what is it that you need and how can you have that need met? And then brainstorm and ask others for ideas. This family would have never thought of that idea had they not spoken to another friend who had done something similar for a different reason. And it opened up their eyes to like, oh, we really could have a live-in nanny for a few hours a week that could make all the difference for our family.
I love that example because it is so outside the box.
Yeah.
And, but what resources do we have
Mhm. Mhm.
to help somebody else? I mean, it might even be, this just popped into my mind. Maybe you have teenage sons who could help somebody care for their yard, and the woman at the house or the man at the house, whoever, the couple at the house can help you with your kids for 5 hours a week or something. I mean, so
Mhm.
what resources do we have? What abilities do we have to trade for somebody,
Yes.
to trade
And
these
doing a swap.
resources?
Yes, yeah, doing a swap of some sort. Usually other people have needs too that you have resources. So yeah, just thinking outside the box, but really it's like, I don't even know what we need. Just that first step. What
Mhm,
do you need? What would actually help your family right now?
mhm.
So
And again, I'm thinking like for myself. And again, that brain says, you're not going to be able to find that.
right,
That's ridiculous. Like,
right.
why can't you do this yourself too? What's
Mm-hmm.
wrong with
Mm-hmm.
you?
Mm-hmm.
So the negative self-talk
Yes.
immediately comes in. Even sitting here at the podcast, recording
Yes.
this, I'm thinking, what do we need? And that negative self-talk immediately starts. So I
Right.
love that, like brainstorming, like getting rid of that, and even write down the most ridiculous
Yeah.
thoughts that come.
Yep. Just write it down. Because could you tweak it a little bit and make it work? Probably.
My
Yeah,
thought was we need to win the lottery. That's how we could get the resources that
write
we
it
need. I mean,
down.
but like write it down. Who
Yep.
knows?
Who
So,
knows, right? I know. And I love that you bring that up, Cheryl, that your brain will automatically be like, no, that doesn't work, or no, I should be able to handle this. Like that is going to come up in your mind. And I know this family, the wife didn't work outside the home. And she told me, she said, I felt like I'm a stay-at-home mom.
mhm.
And this is more than what I can handle. And those thoughts are real. Like I should be able to handle this, or
Yeah.
I should be able to do all of these things, and just let it go.
Yeah.
Just let those,
Don't shit on yourself.
right. Just let those thoughts pass and say, but this is what we need, and how can we have that need met?
And that compassion of
Yeah.
this is really hard and it's beyond what any typical person could handle. We're not superheroes.
Mhm.
And so like let that shame
Mhm.
go because like asking for help is not there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I
And
also had the thought like if you had a child with cancer, you would have offers for help flooding
yes.
into your home, and yet mental health is different and you don't get that same kind of support. So like shift that, like this is no different than if my child had a physical illness and
Right.
we needed extra support, so I'm going to go seek out that extra support.
Yes. Yes. I agree. And giving yourself permission for that to
Mhm.
happen is just such a beautiful thing. So hopefully one or two things have stood out today about taking care of your needs. I think some of the most powerful gifts we can give ourselves are acceptance and truly taking care of ourselves. That is so important and something that we usually put to the back burner and take care of other people's needs. And in just a few minutes a day, throughout the day, just a few moments, you really can nourish your mind, your body, your soul, so that you are in a place where you can be a better caregiver and show up for yourself and your people.
Well, thank you so much. Just some really, I think that they're so powerful because they're so simple
Yeah.
and because they work.
And we discredit them often
Yes.
because they are so simple.
Hmm.
And yet that's where we win the race, is in just those small steps
Be the
every
tortoise.
be the tortoise. And we think that that the speedy hare is where it's at, and he doesn't win the race.
Yeah.
Just be the tortoise. It's slow and simple. If people want to download that free journaling page that's kind of designed to do that, they can do that at my website. So
And I'll link that in the show notes. So tell people what you do and what you have coming up, and so that people can find you and work with you.
yeah, I'm honored to be the co-founder and co-host of the Family Strong Summit with Cheryl, which is an amazing resource for families. And I am a life and relationship coach. I work with people that have someone in their family that struggles with mental health challenges, a spouse or a family member. And I do have a free masterclass coming up on Tuesday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So that would be noon Eastern Time. And it's called Caring for You, Caring for Them, Navigating Mental Health Challenges in Family Relationships. And if you attend that webinar live, you get a bonus. So you can also sign up on my website there or find me on Instagram at I am Ember Pilati or my podcast at Emerge Empowered with Ember Pilati. So
Awesome. Well, I will link all those things in the show notes so people can find you easily. And just thank you so much for coming here and sharing these really amazing thoughts.
thanks for having me, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure.